Let's see. Last time we, we were doing the Octoprint, finishing that up, and I couldn't get it to connect. Couldn't get my Octoprint server to actually connect to my computer. Although it looked like it was running correctly, like it would load up things and such, but it wouldn't actually do anything. So I did find out what was going on with that, and I posted it in the comments, and it was this guy. Just like I had mentioned in the video, not every cable is a data cable. Some cables are just charging, and this is the one that I had. Hold on, we're not live there. There we go. This is the cable I was talking about. This was just a data, not a data cable. It's just a power cable, and it was the cable that I had plugged in here. So now I've got a much longer cable that's in its place. I do have one on order that should be shorter, but this one is currently relegated back to just charging stuff. There was another problem also that wasn't showing up as obvious, and that was with the power supply that I was using. Not the power supply itself, but the converter. I don't think I have any of them sitting around anymore. Oh, here they are. Here they are. With the step-down converter, it wasn't a problem with the step-down converter, but it's not something I've fully resolved. So here's the little step-down converter that I was using. So they do have a adjustable output, and every time I loaded it up, it would run fine. Octoprint would, I could log into Octoprint and do things, but I couldn't install plugins. And what was happening was the Raspberry Pi was entering a throttled mode, so it thought it wasn't getting enough voltage. So I don't know if it thought it wasn't getting enough voltage or current, but it said under voltage, so I assume it really meant voltage. And so I need to go back and adjust the output of the step-down converter to be a little bit higher, apparently, so that it doesn't show up as under voltage. I don't want to send it too high. I don't know what kind of regulation is on the Raspberry Pi itself. I know there is some, but I don't know exactly how much it can handle. So right now I've just got it running through a regular power supply separate from the one that I built with the step-down converter. So we'll see about that. It does work, but now I have got another wire in there that I don't really want to use. So it could be something with the cable that I made. Possibly, I don't know. We'll check and see, because it is running, but it was under voltage, so it was kind of unreliable. All right, but today what we're doing is we're going to put this SKR Mini E3 version 2 board in place of the board that's in the printer already. So this is the version 2. There's 3 versions of this. I think it's a 1, a 1.2, and this one, the 2. Got a picture of it, or actually have the right thing right here. For some reason, the camera here keeps deactivating on me. I'm not really quite sure why, but we'll keep reactivating it when I catch it. So this is the version 2 board. It looks very, very similar. There's a couple of extra spots in here to plug things in that don't exist on the board that's in this printer anyway. But most of the stuff is an exact plug-in. You just take the wire out of the old one and put it in the new one. There's the power and the heaters, and you've got all your end stops. You do have a spot for the BL Touch over here. So right here, this is BL Touch. Now, if you remember, the BL Touch that I have has the split connector. It doesn't have one that I can just plug all 5 of them in right here. So that may create us some issues. We'll see. I don't know how well this one will handle having the end stop plugged in separate from where the BL Touch is. So I do have our Z end stop ready to go in case we need to plug that in. This does have a feature that we can enable, and I haven't tried it before, so we could enable it, but it comes with these little jumpers, these red jumpers here, and you can plug them in on these axes. I don't know if you'd want to plug them in on the extruder axis or not, but it does look like it has a spot for one. But anyway, what these do is they do sensorless homing. So they monitor the current being sent to the stepper, and if it has a sudden spike in it showing that it wants to move but it can't, so it's up against something, then it will trigger just like an end stop would trigger. So we could do that. I have the Prusa does a similar thing to that, where it doesn't have actual switches. You know, it doesn't have little clicky switches of any sort. Some of them use optical sensors and such, but it's monitoring the current to the stepper motors. So we could try that and see how it works. I don't know. I've never tried it before. So this version 2 board does have that. Let's look at the version 2 board. Let's see. Is this one? Yeah. So you get some heat sinks. Some of these boards, maybe not this one, because it did come with heat sinks, but some of these boards, yeah, see they have a large area that can sink heat on where the stepper drivers are located. Some of the times you can get away without putting the heat sink on here, but there's no reason to do that. I don't need the room. You know, I don't need to try and make extra room or anything. And they did send the heat sinks. So I do plan, once we get all this in here, it's kind of hard to do early, but they have a little peel off adhesive, and you just put them on the stepper drivers. These are also the silent drivers. So the board that I do have in there, it is a 32-bit board, but it doesn't have the silent drivers, so the stepper motors are a little bit louder. So these will be, actually, these will be almost non-audible. You won't be able to hear it at all, really. I still don't know that it will lower our noise level a lot, because I've got this fan. Where is it at? This fan on here that's pretty loud. So this is the layer cooling fan, and it's pretty loud anytime it's on. So I don't know that we'll actually get a real reduction in noise, but we do have the possibility to get some noise reduction, and maybe we can get a different fan set up on our layer cooling later on, so that this printer becomes almost silent. Once you get that fan, or you don't have a necessarily loud fan if you have a regular Ender 3. Remember, I changed out the hot end on this one to the V6, and the mount that I'm using for it has a couple of STL files for mounting one of these blower fans. But if you have the regular fan on there, then the next loudest one becomes the power supply fan. That one's harder to change. You can get in there and change them, but it's not terribly loud. All right, let's go in. I think let's just go ahead and do the hardware replacement. So that's going to mean opening up our printer. Let's move some stuff out of the way. This does have a little anti-static bag that it can go in, so that we don't short circuit anything before we even install it. But let's get our printer over here so we can kind of work on it. All right. It's going to be a little bit hard to see down in there just because of where everything is at. I'm trying to find a good, that might work pretty well. We can move this out of the way. All right, so we got to take this cover off. If I remember right, I never put the back, yeah, the back screw has never been replaced back there, so we only have to remove these front two. Let's go ahead and take the SD card out so we don't snap it off accidentally trying to move stuff around in there. So this upgrade won't do a whole lot for this printer because it already has a 32-bit board. It'll give us that sensorless homing capability if we want to do that. And as far as one 32-bit to another 32-bit, I don't know that it's going to give us a huge advantage, but it will be different anyway. So we'll go ahead and do it. It used to make a huge difference when these were 8-bit boards, and to put a 32-bit board in there really did make a difference. Now, we do have to keep track of what goes where, as far as I've added some wires in here. So, like for instance, this wire looks exactly like this wire, and they're both ones that I added. And so we will have to keep track that this is the fan and this one is not. We could probably trace them back and get it sorted out, but the other thing is I have not gone and removed all of the hot glue that they have, so we might have to do some of that hot glue removal. I do not plan to add the hot glue back once we get it out of here. I suppose you could, but I don't see a need to. I'm looking for my little X-Acto. Here it is. To try and trim away some of this extra hot glue. These, the wires that are original to the printer all have labels on them, so if you're changing from, well, they do until you take the labels off. I kind of squish that one around. So let's see if we can get this out of here. It's still, sometimes these guys need a little extra help. I don't want to break the board. I might want to use it still. It's a better board than's in some of my other printers, so we'll keep it around. There's not a lot you can like salvage from these boards, but you can certainly, if you have a set of older printers, you could still upgrade them with one of these boards. Okay. All right, so this one, yeah, I kind of wanted this to happen just so you could see it. So sometimes you pull one of the sockets out. Don't worry, as long as all you did was pull the socket out, the pins actually stayed down in there. Let's see if we can get closer. Yeah, so the pins are still down in there, and it's just kind of the socket that receives the matching plug on the wire. That's not a big deal. The sockets aren't anything other than just pressed on top of these pins. So I'm kind of glad that happened. Not that I was necessarily trying to make it happen, but that way, see, it just goes back on there. So not a big deal if you pull a socket out like that. Let's get, there's BO Touch. This wire for the touch screen, we're going to add, so this is for the LCD screen. We're going to add a touch screen that can emulate the same LCD screen. So we will need to keep this. I just saw in the comments that there are some fan covers that help with that power supply noise. I haven't printed one for this one. I'm not really sure why I haven't done that, but I usually do print one, and it does reduce the noise a little bit, or at least it makes it seem like it does. Let's get our wires out here. I'd kind of like to get this, at least take that part off, remove a little bit of space, give us a little more room, but the bed won't go any further back without moving the end stop. Okay, let's go ahead. All of our stepper motors have glue on them too, so we're going to have to try and get that off of there. This is always the little bit scary part. If you cut one of these wires, then you gotta go in and do some repair work that I don't really want to do. See, I did break the little socket on this one a little bit. Well, broke that corner off. It won't actually hurt it, but I did break it off of there. I wonder if I can just grab this hot glue and it's big enough. Yeah, it's a big enough blob that sometimes can grab it without having to cut it. This one may not be. Oh yeah, got it off of there. Might have to zoom out a little bit so you can see is my hand. All right, we got all of those out. I think we just have the power back here. Most of these wires and plugs will only go one way. The power is different. Since it's actual power going in, you do have to make sure you get it in the right direction. And you could accidentally put it the wrong direction. All right, we've got at least three screws that we need to get out of there. It used to be with the older versions of this SKR board that you had to, you couldn't put all the screws back. So I don't know if, I've never done a version 2, so we'll see if they all line up or not. I noticed in their build log, or whatever they called it, you know, their data sheet for the board, that they mentioned something about the screws lining up better. So we'll see. I don't know. All right. Something else is still, oh, there's one over here. Okay, I think, yep. Get her out of there. And I dropped, yeah, there it is. So there's our old board. It has the heat sinks applied to it, and you can kind of tell it doesn't appear to have as much, like this whole strip here would kind of act like, or it does act like heat sink, and on this one, unless it's embedded in the board, you don't have that same kind of heat sinking ability per stepper. And so they've got heat sinks on each individual one. They actually have thermal compound in there versus just a little sticker thermal compound. They've got heat sinks on here too. This one does not, but it does have kind of large area back here to sink heat. And you do have a fan on the cover that's going to help cool the board too. So I'm going to keep this guy around just in case we want to use it for something. And let's get this one in. All right. So we need to make some room. Plugging this guy in, let's back up a little more. The power is usually the hardest one for me. Actually all of these are just kind of hard to do because there's so limited space down there. So let's make sure we know which way these are gonna, yeah, they're all closed up right now. So I'm gonna open them now while I can see what's going on, because you kind of have to do it all blind. Unless you really get, you know, take all this apart. We can take this tray out and kind of work at it from the bottom side. That, if you can't do it while it's in the printer, then that's certainly easy enough to do. There's only 3 screws holding the tray in, I think. All right, this one, how does this one set up? I think these are already open, mostly. Yeah, I think they're already open. Let's see about these. These are closed. We're just gonna, easier to do that now. All right, so let's kind of lay things off to the side that we're not plugging in yet, so that they're not in our way. BO Touch can go later. Again, I don't know exactly how our BO Touch is going to work, if it will or not, without some issues. These little guys, a little bit frayed. All right, so if you forget, they do have labels. Well, these don't have labels. These have labels. But I did find the pinout. Where'd it go? There it is. I did find the pinout for the thing. You should always look up this stuff before you get into it, just because it could be difficult to figure out what's going where. So we've got a 12 volt. Basically, this is always on fan. So this first one, that's why it's got the smaller wires. That's the fan that cools the hot end. HB, that's the heat bed. So those are going to be larger wires for controlling the heat bed. And on your printer, if you haven't changed stuff, the heat bed and the hot end wires look similar. Now on mine, they're different because we changed out, and I've got these yellow wires for the hot end. So you do want to make sure you don't get those backwards. For one thing, you know, when you heat up the heat bed, it's going to 60, 70 degrees, and the hot end is going to 220. And if you get those backwards, then you could have all kinds of issues that you would not necessarily know where they're coming from. So make sure you get heat bed and extruder. This is the same order that they were in already. We've got some fans here, XYZ in stop, thermistors for measuring the temperature. So we've got the thermistor for the bed and the thermistor for the hot end. We've got this Z probe, so the BO Touch could go here, and this is the one where when we put it in last time, we had the 3 of these, power, ground, and signal, basically plugged into a port, and we had the stop plugged into the Z stop over here. Z probe, there's a breakout for it over here, so in case you aren't sure which pins are which, ground, power, and signal, these bottom 3 are going to be the 3 that we have bundled together, and then these 2, PC 14 and ground. PC 14 is just pin 14 on the, but remember this thing's operating basically like an Arduino, and so that's basically pin 14, and that's hopefully the same pin that they've got assigned to here. We'll see how that works out. I've got some other things in here. There's a power supply. Maybe I want to turn the power supply on and off. NeoPixels, so some LEDs, controllable. They're actually really cool. You can individually control every LED, and they have a plug directly on the board for plugging in NeoPixel. This is your serial input, but we're going to use the USB. There's the SD card. There's our stepper motor drivers. Well, there's the drivers down here, but this is where we're going to plug into the stepper motors. And let's go ahead and start plugging things up. I just wanted to make sure that they hadn't like reversed the power and ground or some crazy thing over here. It looks like it's all the same. All right, so our power wires are really short. They're down in there, and they are power and ground. They're in the right order, so we just got to get them in here somehow. All right. And these, the power and the heater stuff, you really don't want those to have any little spare wire that's sticking off to the side and crossing with the other one that's next to it, because that will instantly kill stuff on your board. Hopefully it blows this little fuse right here, but I don't know. All right, get down in there. We have to do this and not trap wires underneath. So there's a lot of little bits to do all at once. It does look like all of our 4 holes are going to line up. I don't want to plug the holes in yet until I get these on the side in, just because they're such a pain to do. And it might be that we end up taking the bottom off, but I think I've got it here. So these that we're doing now, these back here, are probably the most important ones to make sure that you actually get the wires completely seated in there and everything is tight. A lot of people, I don't know if they do this as much as they used to, but they would actually go in and remove this connector and solder to the board, because if these become loose, or the wires in there become loose, that's a recipe for a fire, or at least a issue. Let's put at least some of these in to hold it in place. Now I did also notice one other thing here that's going to be an issue. So remember I said I ordered a new short cable to go from here to here. Well, this has USB type, I think that's the B, so it's not the same plug that this one was. So I ordered the wrong thing. So that won't work. I didn't even notice that they had a different plug in here. So we'll have to deal with that too. So far, all of these, actually, did that one line up? Yep. All of these screw holes have lined up, which is nice. I don't know if I can actually get that back one in or not, though. It's, oh. These are so tiny. Oh, and I keep dropping it. Trying to get it down in there. I think we got it. That back one looks like it's going to be a pain. And we might just, I'm going to leave it out for now. I'll fiddle with it when I'm not as occupied. All right, so these are all kind of, we'll put them back out of the way for now. Let's work on these here. So the first set is the always on fan, so the layer cooling fan. Fans do matter which orientation they go, because they'll blow backwards. These are just DC motors, so they'll spin the wrong way if you put the fan wires in backwards. So on here they've got VN on the whichever north in my coordinate system here, and then ground here. So let's make sure we get red first and then black. We can get down in there. We may have to find some. I don't have my handy tweezers. There they are. All right. You should, I guess I didn't point this out, but you should also have everything unplugged, which I didn't have. It was off, but not unplugged. All right, this one is kind of got a lot of flyaways here that I don't really want to come in contact with any of the stuff around it. So I'm trying to straighten it up a little. Okay, I think that's in there. Let's get our ground wire for the hot end fan. It's got the same thing where there's it. There we go. I think we got in the right spot. No, we did not. About now. That's one reason to open. There we go. We got it that time. Open these things all the way because you can get the wires above and below, and makes it difficult. All right, our next one is the heat bed heater. So that's these two for me. Now this one, they are red and black, but it doesn't matter. It's just a resistive heater, so it doesn't matter which order you put them in. Although it looks like red's going to go on the left easiest, so we'll do that. Okay, and then we'll put the black one in. And I do a little, a little tug on those when we're done. The next one is the E0, so that's the extruder. For me, that's these two. Also, it's just a resistor, so it doesn't matter which way I polarize it. They're both yellow anyway, so I'd have a hard time figuring out what I was doing if I needed one to go in one side or the other. This one looks shorter for some reason. It's probably just not pulled through as much. These wires are all in the way. Did I not open that one all the way? There it goes. And then this one. So that's the hardest part in this, to me anyway, is getting these wired up. All right, so now what we need to do is plug all of our little wires in the right spot. So this first fan is going to be the fan for the cover, so we'll leave that off till the end. What do we have here? This one's not labeled. We might have to do process of elimination on that guy. It's one of the original ones, but it doesn't have a label on it, which I thought they all did, but I didn't pay close enough attention. So let's look at our end stops. Here's X. The next plug is the X end stop. This one should be Y. Yeah, just checking. Z, we will try to plug in the Z end stop from our BL Touch and see if that will work. If I can get it the right way. Then we've got this must be the thermistor for the heat bed. And then we have our hot end thermistor, which is a different plug now. And we'll plug it in there. It's only different because I changed the hot end on this printer. Yours should match up with those. It wouldn't, if they are different, if there's no label on them though, you probably should label those two before you unplug them because they might look identical. And you definitely want to be measuring the right temperature on your hot end versus your bed. All right, so here is we have the split connector on our BO Touch. So I'm going to try, it looks like we've got ground, power, and signal. So on our deal here, ground, power, and signal, ground should be the bottom one. So we've got that. Okay, so I just plugged it in here. Now we've got, we'll have to work on our LCD here in a second. Let's see. All of those are done. Get them out of the way. Let's see which one this is. Should be X, but I can't see it. I actually don't know that it is. No, that's Y. There's X. All right, so let's just check. X is the first one, which, you know, that makes sense, but you don't want to get, these wouldn't be horrible if you got them backwards, but obviously you would have things moving in directions you didn't anticipate. It does look like, though, they might plug in the opposite of the way they were plugged in originally. So let's see if that's true. Get that out of the way. They do. So they're 180 degrees from the way they were. So that might create a little bit of issue on reaching things. And hopefully they're wired correctly, though, and I don't have to switch the wires around. I've never had to do that before, but I don't remember them being 180 degrees before either. Now, okay, so this one, the Z, there's a ZA and a ZB. So this one does have two, it only has one stepper driver, but two outputs. So if you have a dual Z, like two Z motors raising the Z axis up. So we're actually going to skip this one, that's the ZB, and we'll go to the extruder down here. I'm having to peel off some of the hot glue. Wow, that just barely reaches with the length of wire that I have to work with. All right, so that actually should work. Let's plug in our existing LCD and just turn it on. It should have firmware on it already, to where it would just work. But let's see, which way does this need to go? It's really tight in there. I think that's plugged in. This we may have to work on. This is kind of loose. And oh, this is our layer cooling fan. Also, it has a direction, and yeah, it's got plus on the top side. All right, so let's plug it in and see if anything really bad happens. All right, so we got a light on. We got our screen here on. This is in the way. You know, looks like basic Marlin ready to go. Let's do some moving of axis. Yeah. So and even between the last time and this time, again, this fan is most of the noise. See if we can turn it off. In fact, make sure we have control over it. Where's that at? In temperature. Actually, the fan is supposed to be on 0, but it's running, so that's a little interesting. Not sure why this fan is running right now. All right, so let's put some firmware on here because I don't think this knows that there's a BL Touch. It is lit up, and it might. Well, let's just try. We can shut it down, and let's not do auto home, but let's first let's move Z. Make sure we've got Z Yeah. That looks reasonable. Okay. Let's make sure our wires aren't hung on stuff. So those hold fine, but see, Z is not, it doesn't know it has a BL Touch. So let's add some firmware to see if we can make our BL Touch work. All right. So to do that, I'm going to use the unified firmware, the TH3D unified firmware. So we go here. There's a whole bunch of them. I think it's on like page 3. Ender 3 SKR E3 Mini. And so I've already downloaded it. I haven't installed it or anything, but I already downloaded it right here. Remember, you do have to have Visual Studio Code in order to work on this thing, which is right here. So we will file, open a whole folder. I put this on the desktop. There it is. We'll open the firmware folder and let it get everything open. Okay. So oh, well, still loading. Let's go back to configuration.h. So we have the SKR E3 Mini for Ender 3. So we're going to do that. There are 3 versions of the board. We have the version 2, so we're going to do that. We don't have any of these probe mounts. We do have a custom probe, though. We're going to have to find the location of where our probe is, which means I've got to go look it up. Let's see. We have the Klimco mount. Products. We have this guy, and I think it tells us the offsets in here somewhere. Maybe in here. I thought it told me the offsets somewhere. We have that one. There they are. All right, so it's X of -32, Y of -3. All right. So let's see what else we have in here. Ender 3 specific. We don't have the extender. There actually are kits that you can buy new rails for your Ender 3 and a new, depending on which way you're extending, maybe a new bed to make it into a larger printer without having to buy a whole new printer. We don't have Ender 5. There's the NeoPixel, or some of the NeoPixel stuff. I did find, remember I was having issues finding the grid points. Even though this is the Easy Able points, the product sold by TH3D, it controls the grid points of the others also. So we'll do 4x4. So that creates a 4x4 grid. I like that more than the 3x3. The 5x5 is better, but it starts to take quite a while to get your printer probed. Let's see, I think I set this to something smaller, maybe like 10. Let's see. Here's our custom probe. So we need to change our offsets to, why is this not active? I don't know why that's grayed out for me. But X was, I think, -32 and Y was -3. We'll check that in a second. X of -32, Y of -3. Okay. But I don't like that it's grayed out because we did enable the custom probe, right? Didn't we? Yeah, right here. Maybe it just has to save to activate that because it definitely is enabled. Let's see. Custom e-steps value. Wow, I don't remember what our e-steps were for. I don't think it's 410 though. That's more like for a Titan extruder. So we're probably going to have to change our e-steps because I don't think 410 is the right number. But we'll leave it there for now. Here we've got our high value for our thermistor. We actually, we do need to change our thermistor also because this probably is assuming we have the stock Ender 3 thermistor, and we have, we have the V6 hot end. So that should change the thermistor also when we do that. If you're using the V6 hot end or Homera with their cartridge thermistor, which is what we have, then we need to uncomment that one. So that'll change our thermistor. Let's see, miscellaneous things. You can change the direction the knob on the LCD changes things. We won't bother with that. It doesn't have PID bed control enabled. I kind of want that. If you don't use the PID bed control, then how it operates is it's just on and off. It's called bang bang, and that's okay except on larger prints that can create little stripes periodically in your printer, in your printed part. Where the bed actually goes on and it deflects, and then it's off and it might undeflect, and it kind of, the bed itself, very tiny, not big deflections, but it deflects up and down a little bit if you use the bang bang control versus the PID, which is a more gradual control, and you don't see those stripes as much. I haven't noticed them on these prints. It doesn't really show up in most colors. It's usually on the really light colors it can show up. At least the way I've seen it. So we might want to control that. I'll come back and do that. I'd have to set it up and everything, do the PID tuning, which we'll have to do anyway because all of the settings that we had before, E-steps, PID settings, all of those are gone because we took the whole board out. So you could upload your previous firmware or write things down and put them over. We're just kind of starting from scratch. Z-probe offset, this could help. I will put that one, since we have a Z-probe enabled. Actually, did we ever enable we did custom probe, yeah. So we did enable that. And so this will help with set that up to the right height. I haven't talked about linear advance yet. So that is going to be a thing that I'm going to leave off for now. Here's the BL Touch section. So we will tell it that we're using the BL Touch. So servo pin. Remember when we looked at this thing here? Here. It said that it was using PC14. That is this pin right here. We're not plugged into that one. We're plugged in over here. So this is where I don't exactly know. We'll have to do a little test to see what pin we're actually using, because I don't know. And I don't know what PA1 is set to. It might be set to 14 in here, or it might be 1. There's the manual mesh. Assuming we can use the BL Touch, we don't need that. Power loss recovery, I don't want to enable that. The arc support, you can override that. Remember we talked about Arc Welder in Octoprint as a plugin. I actually do want to use arcs, so I'm going to not disable that. And the rest of that that's the end of the configuration, so we don't really need to go through any of the rest of it. So let us compile this thing. Build it, whatever it's called, and hopefully it will build on our first attempt. While it's doing that, we can go back checking that it started out right. So we do have the LCD. So let's look at that. So our little hot glue gibbles. Oh, you know what? I wonder if these fan ports are backwards. Remember I said the layer cooling fan was on when it shouldn't be? They may have it where this, where are we at? This is the fan I should have plugged in. So they might be backwards from what they were on the E3 board. Or not the E3 board, the Creality board. So what I did now, and we'll turn it back on and test this before we get too far. So I did have it plugged into this. This is the location where the layer cooling fan was on the Creality board, but I think it might be this one. So let's turn it on and see if we can now control our board. Let's see if I can get you a better picture in there. It's hard to get in there. So I moved from here, is where I did have the layer cooling fan, to here, based on the locations of where things were on the Creality board. But now let's see if I can control the fan. It's not on right now. Temperature, fan speed, go up to turn it on. Yeah, that's what it is. So there is one slight difference in getting these things. Oh, let's turn it all the way off. So it's not a direct replacement because this location on the Creality board controls the layer fan, and this one does the fan for the board here, and they're backwards on here. So this one is going to be this guy's plug. And so that is one little thing that's different. Okay. Let's look at our guy here. Go ahead and put our let's not put our SD card in yet. So now that we're back on a different board, I don't believe this board uses the same way to know when to install firmware. I believe what it's going to do is look for a file named something.bin and install that, and then it's going to rename that file. So actually it might be called firmware.bin actually. So we got cables, we have a knob, packing material, screen, and more packing material. So that's what's in the package. So let's see what of this we actually need to use. So I've got this guy and this guy, and got a couple of plug-ins here. This is always the one where I don't remember which goes where. So, you know, you've got the 3 expansion ports. Let's see if we can find, hey, there's a Wi-Fi. I've never noticed that before. Maybe you can plug a Wi-Fi module into this thing. But what it does do is it gives me a full-size SD slot right on the screen and regular size USB, so I don't have to fiddle around with the little guy if I'm not running Octoprint. So we need to plug in one of these, and this guy, we just need to find out where to plug them in. So we're still building our firmware, so let's look over here and see if we can find the correct set of pinouts. There was no at all instruction in here of any sort. There's a card. So there's that. And there's a fly flying around here. All right, so this is Big Tree Tech. I'm typing over here. Big Tree Tech TFT 35 E3. All right, let's see what we can find. That is certainly it. That's where you buy it, but I want to find a pin out for it. So it is dual mode. What that means is you can hold the button down over here and switch between the touchscreen version and the LCD version. So it'll emulate an LCD version, because there are a few commands currently, at least the last time I did one of these, there were a few commands that only existed in the LCD menus and they didn't exist in the touch menus. So it can flip between the two. Okay, let's see. So we've got, like I said, a Wi-Fi module. There's the TFT pin. Now it still doesn't tell me which direction it plugs in, and I don't think it. Oh, it does have connectors that will tell me. All right, ordinary LCD. I guess we'll just plug into expansion 1. We don't have this CR10. And let's see if we get any more information on this screen. Well, here it says on that RS-232 slot. Now I don't know. I'm looking at the front of the screen here, so I don't know if these are mirrored or not. Well, let's see. EXP1 is, yeah, I think it actually is mirrored. Let's see if we've got any other. Yeah. They're actually showing it plugging into the port. Oh, did I miss? Oh, hold up. Oh, no. They did them backwards. Okay. So what they show here is not correct. Well, look, this is a version 1.1 board. What they're showing is it plugging right here, but this port is for the BO Touch. The TFT port is actually over in this area somewhere. All right, so let's do some turning off our printer and unplugging it, since we got to work on it. We don't actually need this cable because we already have one in here, so we don't need this one. It's no different than the one that's already there right here, so there's no sense in rerouting that cable. Let's undo this. Oh, it's a bigger one. What time is it? Okay, I think we have enough time to get this done. I don't know if we'll have enough time to get the BO Touch up and running or not. Hopefully it runs when we put the firmware in, but you never know. We can take our custom printed knob off of here. Okay, let's unplug that. Now that one was actually plugged into 3, I think. I don't remember, but let's undo these so that the new one just drops in the exact place, assuming I can find the Allen wrench that will undo it. We used it for all this other stuff, and now I don't know where it went. Oh, over here. All right. So it's not a terribly long process. We've done this in an hour. Like I said, the advantages of putting one of these boards in now are not nearly as strong of advantages as they used to be. But the LCD screen is nice. It is quieter. Now, if you have the Ender 3 Max that already has the quiet drivers, you will notice almost no difference. But I don't have that. Okay. Oh, let's get the film off of there first. It can be hard to remove otherwise. Let's see. It's being a little bit tricky to get everything. There we go. Okay. And it might, I don't know if you can use this LCD with another board. Like, I don't think the Creality board has a place to plug in a TFT. I know this version does not. So maybe the 4.4 boards do, but the 4.2 boards don't. So that would be a reason. Maybe you wanted a touchscreen. Maybe you want to do the sensorless homing. That doesn't really give you that much advantage. It's just kind of neat. But these micro switches that do the actual switching don't ever really go bad. This one does have, it has a lighted, I believe. I think I see them down in there. It has a lighted knob. So that's kind of, and you can control the color of it. So that's kind of neat. Again, things that aren't really valuable, but kind of neat. All right, let's plug in. Let's try expansion 1. Which way? Oh, it's going to flip upside down from that. And then we've got our RS-232 cable. This end we'll plug in here. And this one, oh, you might not can see too well. I'll just show you. If I can get you sort of in the middle of everything. So it plugs in here. The other end actually has this little guy that comes off separate. And they're going to plug in right down in here. It's labeled TFT. The problem is I don't know which way it goes. So I'm going to pick a way. So I'm going to put the separate one on that end. And we'll see if that's correct or not. I'll do a quick check to see if that if there's a way I can tell which way it's supposed to plug in, but let's look over here and see if there's anything that might indicate which way it's supposed to plug in. I'm not seeing anything obvious. There's that little Wi-Fi module. That's kind of neat. I might have to try that out sometime to see how that works. Yeah, I just don't see anything that's going to tell me where to plug this separate, and I don't know why it's split off anyway. All right, well, let us kind of, I don't want that, let's prop this thing up. I don't want it contacting anything, shorting out. All right, so we're gonna, so I put a one of the little insulator pads underneath there because I don't want to mount it just yet. I'm gonna plug it in and see what we get. All right, so we did get the screen to come on, so I think we did everything okay. Now we've got, this is our menu, and it's touch screen. So that's good. I don't see the knob lit up, so maybe we don't have the lit one. See if we can. Let's do full. That worked. So it looks like everything's more or less behaving the right way. I thought there was, this one may not have the knob that lights up on it. The other one that I had did, but I don't see it on here. Not that that's that important, but it's a feature. Oh, there we go. Rotary knob LED. White, red, although it doesn't look like it's actually lit up at all. I don't see any lights on there, so this one may not have that. Let's see. So if you hold the knob down, then you can go to Marlin mode, and now it's not an LCD screen, obviously, but it gives you the simulation of an LCD screen, but nothing's coming up here. So I might have chosen the wrong port back here. Let's try a different one. No. So it's actually the port that was labeled as the CR10. So, but now I've got the, you know, it simulates your LCD screen. And only because there are some things in this menu that have never been ported over to the TFT version. At least they hadn't been at the time. All right, so we are almost out of time, but we still have, we got plenty. I'll you know, put it all back together off camera. Let's see if we got our firmware to, it did, it said it's installed. All right, so somewhere they gave me a SD card. Here's one. It's not the one that they gave me, but there was an SD card in the SKR Mini box. I'll just use this one. Or maybe this is it. This one's empty. Maybe this is it. So let's go ahead and make sure, yeah, you're saying the right thing. So if we go to, it's in here. Which one of these is it in? I've already forgotten. Oh, shoot. We built it, and now I don't remember. Oh, there it is. PIO. So that's the this guy, Platform EO or Platform IO. Build STM32. Oh wait, if we right click on that, find in folder, revealed in File Explorer. That's what we want. So that brings up this guy. So in here, there's firmware.bin created today. We can put that on that SD card. So I just drug it over to the window. Eject that. And turn off our printer. Put this guy in. And it should put our new firmware, hopefully that has BO Touch and everything, on here. We're still in the LCDs. Oh, and our light came on, so we just had to reboot. There was the TH3D logo. You missed it, but oh, so we do have. Well, you missed it, but it did have a EEPROM error because obviously we just put new firmware on there. I don't know if I can get that glare off of there or not. Can't. So I had to reset the EEPROM. Let's go back to our touch. Make sure everything looks fine over there. Seems like it's fine. Let's try. What we were trying to do is we wanted to back. We wanted to home this thing, and the Z-axis was the problem. So let's home X, make sure that works. It was already homed. There it goes. Home Y. That's fine. Now here's the home Z. So let's see what it does when we're trying to home the Z-axis. Oops. Hey, all right, I'm going to be ready to. All right, so BO Touch is back working. Knob is green if you look from the side. It is green. That's a very greenish yellow. Huh. I think I set it on yellow, but at least it worked. All right, so so maybe the colors on the LCD aren't quite right, but we did get it all done. I've got to put everything back together. Got to remember to plug in the case fan. So it's a cool mod. It is, the LCD screen part is maybe the bigger benefit now. And I don't think you can add that LCD screen. There are probably others. This is the only one I've ever added without this board. But there are probably other boards that have a TFT output on it, not just this board. I've only ever done it with this one though. So you can do it in an hour, reasonably, you know, slow paced. Get it done in an hour. Now, things I still need to do, I need to PID tune things. I need to check my E-steps because that version of firmware had the E-steps at 410, and I thought mine were like 100 or something. So I think the E-steps may be way off. So we'll need to check that. Obviously, I need to put it all back together. It's still, you know, got covers scattered everywhere. In fact, I'm going to shut it down before I accidentally short circuit something. Next time, what do we have going for next time? Next time we will be doing, oh, well, I said the BO Touch. I didn't think we'd actually get it done today, but I think we actually did. So we don't necessarily have to do that part. I had some finishing stuff, and we've already done the firmware for the board. So we've got several of these where it used to take me, you know, several days to do it. Now it's simpler. I don't know. I might move this photogrammetry up. Or we can do, because the parts look metal is not a lengthy thing at all. So we'll add something in there to it. All right, I will see y'all on Wednesday. And let me know if you have any questions or if you have a particular thing that you'd rather see. You know, we're kind of in the last bit of the quarter. And so if there's some things that you want to go ahead and check out, just let me know and I can move things around. There's no particular order to most of these things. All right, see you all on Wednesday.